Hello and welcome, and thank you for taking the time to listen to this webinar. Perhaps you already have a copy of the Budget Kit workbook and you may not have used it yet or looked through it yet, or you may have attended one of my workshops or webinars or a phone coaching session. This short webinar is presented as a review and a map for guiding you financially through the year. And I'm really glad you're here, and I'm confident you'll glean some new strategies for your current system or gain some new ideas as a beginner to make this year one of your best years ever. I'm Judy Lawrence, and I've been a financial counselor and a coach for many, many years. I have a master's in counseling, and I've worked with couples, individuals, people in pre-retirement, small businesses, many professionals, and I really have enjoyed working with this variety of people. I am the founder of the moneytracker.com website, and I live here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but I did live in the Bay Area, the whole Silicon Valley area, for 10 years during the whole 2000s. It was an amazing experience of booms and crashes, and I have to say it really added to my repertoire of experiences. But my real niche is addressing the emotional issues along with the practical nuts and bolts of budgeting. And just to give you a little bit of a background tidbit, I was born and raised in Wisconsin. And yes, I actually grew up in a cheese factory environment. That's not me pouring the milk, but my picture could look just like that. Same milk can, same equipment. My dad was a cheesemaker, and we lived above the cheese factory, and all three of us kids worked from a young age right on through graduating from high school. And the reason that point is important is that our dad he paid us in cash, and I remember loving getting that cash at the end of every week. And I would take my cash and I would put it in a big jar. And then by the time I was in my young teens, about 14 years old, I started dividing my jars into 5 jars, 5 different reasons for saving money. Clothes, girl has to have her clothes, and then I had savings for a car. When I was 16, I was going to buy an old beater car. Another jar for college, because college was going to be up to me. And then another jar for savings, which I knew was important. And of course, a jar for having some spending money. So I'd split it up 5 ways. My brother, who was 10 years older, and when he'd be home, he'd walk past my bedroom, see all those jars on my dresser with money, and he'd just laugh and say, "Why don't you just take your money to the bank and get some interest on it?" Now, he was a fiscal-minded one. And again, I was only about 14. All I wanted to do is see my money growing in those jars. And I have to say, I was way ahead of Harbecker and his jars in his Millionaire Mind book all those years ago. But eventually, I realized that those jars were actually the forerunner to the Budget Kit workbook. My focus then for this webinar is on a proactive planning approach for either starting or improving a spending plan that works for you, and an approach that helps you gain more financial clarity and empowerment. And as a financial counselor, my focus is to help you gain more emotional and financial security around money, to help you have a better relationship with money, and to help you gain a sense of financial peace of mind. And even though you may already have some pretty effective systems in place for household spending plans, and maybe you have your own jars or envelopes beyond the software system, my intention is to provide some additional solid budgeting tools, strategies, and core concepts from decades of experience working with clients literally and now virtually at their kitchen tables, through Skype, through the phone, through presenting numerous workshops and webinars. And I trust that there will definitely be some new ideas to help you fine-tune and adjust what you already have in place for your personal spending plan. And if you don't have anything in place, no problem. I do have lots of information to help you get started. As an overview, we'll go over 3 core concepts for creating and maintaining a budget, or a cash flow system, or a spending plan, whatever term kind of fits better for you. And normally I actually do a 3-hour workshop on this topic of budgeting and having a spending plan, where I go into greater depth with each concept, and I cover a lot more information related to other elements of basic personal finance. This overview will certainly give you some solid information and some core concepts that you can use immediately to either tweak your existing budget system set up for this year or help you get started as you create a budget that's going to help you get off on the right financial foot for the year. And before I get started, I want to put this idea of budgeting into some perspective. Consider, these last wild years we've had and the various events we've been through that have changed our perspectives, our choices, our decisions about how we manage our finances. I've noticed how many people are becoming much more mindful and conscious and aware and deliberate about how they make their decisions. They're also staying more aware of their personal values, goals, priorities, and as a result, consumers are becoming much more discerning about how they spend and handle their money. And I will say, making those conscious behavioral choices and changes does take time and energy, but the payoff can be huge financially and emotionally. The significant part of this mindfulness and this consciousness is having an actual deliberate spending plan, a budget. And from my perspective, a well thought out, deliberate spending plan that aligns with your personal and family values and goals and priorities is what budgeting is really all about. Having a solid spending plan still boils down to the basics. We're back to the tortoise and the hare story, or the grasshopper and the ant messages, if you remember any of your Aesop's fables stories. It's all about slow, steady, simple, and methodical. Still works. And you may think, oh gosh, that's boring or sounds like drudgery or deprivation. But I have to tell you that thousands of people that I have worked with directly or through the budget kit over the decades will be the first to tell you that a budget's not about deprivation. It's actually liberating. It's about choice, control, something totally grounded in reality. And that's a totally different take on budgeting, as those of you who've ever done budgets know. So, okay, let's look at how to create a simple spending plan, a budget that works.